In this Excel tutorial video, I'm going to show you how to make a line graph using Microsoft Excel 2010. If you have a different version of Microsoft Office, or if you're using a Mac instead of a PC, things might look a little bit different for you, but you should still be able to find all of the features that I'm going to show you today. You use a line graph to represent multiple measurements over time, like I've done here with heart rate going from rest to 10 minutes of exercise for two different groups. One group being a treatment group and the other group being a placebo group, and we'll just use that generic terminology for right now. If you click on Insert, Line, and in the top left hand corner we'll select that first option, you'll see that the figure is blank, and that's because we haven't selected any data. The first thing that we're going to do is right click on that graph and select Data. We'll add our first data series, and that will be the treatment group. So we'll type in a series name, treatment, and we'll be able to select the data by left clicking on this box and highlighting the means of that group at all time points. We're then going to add an additional series, and that series will be our placebo group. And those placebo values are down here, these means. And we now have our group data. Our y-axis is heart rate, and our x-axis should be time, though right now it's just representing the number of data points rather than what we want, which is time. So we'll click on Edit Horizontal Axis, and we'll change our data label range to rest, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 6 minutes, 8 minutes, and 10 minutes. And now we see that that is updated, so we're good to go. I'm going to make the graph a little bit larger to make things easier to see. So I'm just going to drag it down and up a little bit. Okay. So we started our process by entering the means of our two groups, our treatment group in blue, and you'll see that when I click on that group, we get the means of that group, and we also get the x-axis values. And then when we click over on the placebo group, we can see that data highlighted as well. But these are just the means. We're also going to need to add the standard deviations, and to do that, we'll add a chart element called error bars. While highlighting a group, and for this one we'll be doing the placebo first, if you click on Layout and go to Error Bars, you'll see that you have a lot of options, but we want to do custom error bars, so we're going to select more error bar options, select Custom, specify a value, and for the placebo group, the positive error will be 1 standard deviation, and the negative error will be the same standard deviation. Okay, that looks good. We've added the values for the placebo group, and now we're going to do the same thing for the control group. So while for the treatment group. So while highlighting that series, we'll once again confirm that is our treatment group. We're going to go to error bars, more error bar options, custom, specify value, and we'll repeat this process, selecting the positive error and negative error values. So now we have error bars for both groups, and because there's not a lot of separation between these two groups, the error bars overlap. We still need to format this to APA standards, so we'll need to add some more chart elements and change some of the formatting. If I left click on one of the grid lines, you'll see that they all highlight. We want to remove these by either clicking backspace or delete, because those should not be present in your figure. The other thing that I'm going to do is move this figure legend. Oops, I just moved the entire figure. We don't want to do that. So make sure you're hovering over the figure legend box, and you can drag that wherever you want on the screen. For right now, I'm just going to kind of leave it here in the middle. I'm going to click on the middle of the figure. Notice that you can click on the outside of the figure and on the inside of the figure, and I'm going to drag this to the right to fill up the space. Okay, I'm not really content with having all of this empty space down here, so I'm going to select a different minimum value. It'll automatically assign 0 as your minimum value for heart rate, and instead I'm going to select my own. I'm going to do that by right-clicking on the axis and select Format Axis. You'll see that the minimum is automatically set to 0, but we're going to select a fixed value of, let's say, 50. And you'll see that that just kind of magnifies everything for us. We still need our axes titles because we're not really sure what these numbers are until we put these axes titles in. So while clicking on the inside of the graph, we'll see some options under layout, and we're going to want to go to axis title, and let's do the horizontal axis first. We want that title to be below the axis, and this happens to be time in minutes. So be sure to put your units, and you'll see up here in the function screen that we've got time and our units, minutes, are placed in parentheses. Click enter and you'll see that it updates on the graph. We also need to format the vertical axis, so we're going to add another axis title, vertical, and this time we have several different options, and we're going to want to select the rotated title, and that rotated title will be heart rate. And the units for heart rate are beats per minute. Confirm up here, we've got heart rate with our units beats per minute in parentheses. Click enter and everything updates. You'll notice that on the left hand side here that the vertical axis title and the axis labels have they're kind of overlapping, so now it's just aesthetics. You're going to grab it, move it over to the side. We can move this box around a little bit until everything looks the way we want, and it's just trial and error. Do what looks good. There's no set way of doing this. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to do the same thing down here with the horizontal axis, give us a little bit more space. And that's looking pretty good. One of the problems that we still have, though, is that with APA format you can only use black, gray, and white, and we now have a blue and a red line, so we're going to want to change that. If I right click on the blue series, which happens to be our treatment group, if I right click on that, we'll have options. I can format the data series, and you have a couple of options. I can change one of them to black and one of them to gray, and that might be a little bit difficult to detect. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the line style to a dashed line. So I'll have one line be solid and one line be dashed, and that's what we're going to use to separate it. So the line color for both of them will be black. And you'll see that the legend has now updated that our treatment group is a black dashed line. I'm going to do the same thing for the placebo group, and in formatting this data series, this one, the line color will be black, and we'll have that be a solid line. So the distinguishing characteristic is the line style, not the line color for these two groups. The last thing that we're going to do to this figure in Excel is we're going to change the font of all of the text in here to match the rest of our paper, and we'll use Times New Roman 12-point font, and by clicking not on the inside but by clicking on the outside, we'll be able to change all of that simultaneously by typing in Times and increasing the font to a 12-point font. And that looks pretty good. So now what we can do is we can go ahead and take this and we can paste it into a Word document to complete the process. Be sure when you're copying it that you don't copy the inside, that you select the outside. Select copy, and here you'll want to paste it as a picture, and that way none of the formatting will change. Now with it pasted as a picture, you can resize it without any consequences related to the formatting of the figure.